I am often asked, how did I get to be where I am? How did I get to be a chief executive officer of a multi-billion-dollar company? And more often, I'm asked, how did I, as a female, come to lead a large mining company by my mid-30s? And to be honest, I often ask myself the same question, and I pinch myself when I wake up each morning just to think how lucky I am. I'm fortunate to have always loved what I do and feel privileged to be in a position where I believe I can make a real difference. And it's the passion and energy that I bring to work each day that I believe has been a huge part of what's led to my success. But if you had asked me when I was back at school how my life would unfold, I would never have imagined I'd have been on the journey I have. So today, I'd like to share with you whether it was through good planning or good luck that I am where I am. I once heard a saying from an ancient Roman philosopher called Seneca, and he said that luck is where the crossroads of opportunity meet preparation, and I really believe that. Today, I'd like to share with you how I prepared myself so when the opportunities came before me, I felt confident enough within myself to embrace and accept those opportunities. As I look back, I think there's been one key differentiator that has helped me above anything else, and that's been how I've made my decisions. So today, I'd like to share with you how you can make decisions in your life to find your way that makes you passionate and energized about making a difference in the world. The first step in making a good decision is by making it an active one. Often I find that people find decision-making difficult, and so they'll delay making the decision, or at worst, they may stand back and let others make the decision for them. When you make an active decision, you're in control. You can evaluate the pros and cons of a situation through your lens, through the values that you hold dear to your heart. And when you do this, you're making choices to take yourself down a path that leads you to greater energy and enthusiasm. The other benefit to taking an active decision is that you recognize you're the one who has the power or the control and ownership of that decision. I have found to make a huge difference in making it successful. Because when you own a decision, you're personally vested in making it a success. Let me give you an example of that from my life. When I chose to do engineering, it wasn't the most common path for a girl to take. I was by no means the first engineer. I have others who led the way before me to thank for that. But nonetheless, it wasn't a common choice. And making that first difficult decision to pursue more hard maths and sciences, whilst many of my girlfriends went off to do law or psychology or other arts-based undergraduates, was tough. And I'll never forget that first day in engineering in a hall like this, sitting down and looking around at the strange male faces that surrounded me, feeling incredibly lonely. To say I was nervous was an understatement. I was absolutely petrified. What if I really couldn't do this? What if I wasn't going to be good at this? What if I failed? And then I realized just how much hard work and energy I had put into getting to that moment. It was the first decision I had made about my life, and I wanted it to be a success. Thankfully, as you roll the story forward a few years, it turned out to be the most instrumental decision I ever made, and unquestionably, it was the first step that led me along the path to where I am today. But perhaps more importantly, I met my husband, Jason, a fellow engineer along that path. And interestingly, those strange men who surrounded me and frightened me on that first day of university have turned out to be some of my dearest and closest friends. But still, at the time, it was courageous. And I often reflect. I had a guy that asked me once, what do you do for a living? And feeling proud of myself, I stood tall before him and I said to him, I am a materials engineer. And do you know what he said? He turned around and he said to me, is that the same as sewing clothes? And I thought to myself in that moment that I had just shattered for him all the paradigms, the stereotypes of what a girl represented. How could a girl like me be a real engineer? So I've often challenged myself and thought, how did I make that decision away from the crowd? And I think it all started by making lots of little decisions that inched me forward, bit by bit, in the right direction. It wasn't an easy decision, but over time, it felt more and more comfortable. I wasn't naturally talented at school. I had to work hard at it. I had to make lots of trade-offs and choices or sacrifices, like studying instead of watching TV. These decisions can often be the toughest because you're trading short-term pain, the sacrifice of the moment, for that longer-term gain, for that future that holds so much hope. Today, I still struggle with those decisions, whether it be an extra hour of sleep in the morning, or getting up to go for a run, or doing another conference call during my evening, or spending time with my husband and kids, or whether it be a piece of cake or a piece of fruit. These decisions can sometimes be some of the most difficult decisions we make. But I fundamentally believe if we can't get those small decisions right most of the time, we can quickly undermine where we're going. Getting the basics right builds a strong foundation and a discipline that gives us the stability that we need to make the bigger decisions to come. Decision making is a lot like riding your bike. You might remember you started off with the technical basics. The hands on the handlebars, your feet up on the pedals, chin up, brakes ready, and slowly you started to move. Eventually, you started to pick up a little bit more speed, and you got a little bit more confident with yourself. And eventually, you got to the point that you could lift your feet off the ground, and the momentum that was behind you kept you stable. And making decisions is just like this. When you start off, you feel a little uncomfortable, perhaps awkward, maybe nervous, a little bit wobbly in how you go. But in time, you get that confidence. It's just like making decisions. Over time, you'll make increasingly more complex decisions, and you'll maneuver yourself with ease on the way forward. But there's one thing I should mention, that despite getting practiced at making decisions, it doesn't mean it will always be easy. There will be times when you're full of apprehension. There will be times where you question yourself. There will be times that you have self-doubt and fear. But what I've come to learn is that it's in those moments that we're learning the most. It's at those moments that inside we're stretching ourselves to a stronger place. And they're moments to embrace, not fight or resist. So let me recap so far. We've started the journey to lead ourselves, and we've done that by taking active decisions, by trading off those short-term pain for the longer-term gain. And we've done the preparation that we need to position ourselves so when those opportunities come before us, we feel confident enough to embrace them. As Dr. Seuss would say, you have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. And now that we've started the journey to lead ourselves, we can begin the journey to lead others. Now, this was the time I was most excited about. Although I realized that now I had to learn how the decisions I made not only affected myself, but how those decisions affected others who surrounded me. I remember back to one of my first days on the job. As a young engineer, I was strong in maths, but not particularly endowed with practical skills. And so as I arrived on the first day to a remote industrial site, I knew I had a lot to learn. I really wanted to make a difference and fought against the prevailing view that the office workers, they didn't know what was happening out there in the field. I was nominally in charge, but the only person who I think really believed that was my mum. And I remember standing before my crew of 15 men, and those feelings I had on the first day of engineering school came flooding back. And all of a sudden, I thought to myself, how would I, as a 20-year-old, half the age of the men before me, lead this team? Thankfully, I realised I was well over my head, and swallowing my pride, I turned to the men I was meant to be leading for help. These amazing men had little formal knowledge, formal expertise, but vast experience in how to operate and run the plant. These men were natural decision makers, natural leaders who knew exactly how to make those little decisions to get things back up to the place they should be. Today, there are libraries of books on the topic of decision making and leadership, but I was fortunate to learn and watch from the masters themselves. They had no fancy words for what they did. What they did came from a combination of intuition and experience, and I gained a deep respect for hands-on learning and the need to balance my theoretical skills with practical skills. And I learned a really important lesson, and that is that no one will follow your decisions if they don't respect you. And respect, it doesn't come from any fancy title, it doesn't come from any degree, it comes from a number of things. It comes from genuinely caring, listening, and stacking up a series of those small decisions I spoke of earlier to build a personal credibility. It also helps when you're leading others if you can have fun along the way and not take yourself too seriously. So in closing, as we started the journey today to lead ourselves, we learnt how we need to actually make active decisions and how we make trade-offs between one choice and another. We learnt how we can take that to see the opportunities and create our own luck. And then as we could lead ourselves, we could turn in how we lead others. And leading others, it's about getting hand-on practical experience of how our decisions impact others. And now we're well on a way of creating a future that makes us all energised and excited. I continue to walk this journey and look forward to each of you joining us in your passion, in your success, to make a brighter and stronger future for everyone. Thank you.